got my laces tied. My trusty podcast by my side. If you wanna talk fun, it's the place to be. Yeah, it's the drop, D-R-O-P.
Hey, this is Taylor with Believe in the Run.
And Reese would Believe in the Run.
And you are listening to the Dirt Division segment of the Drop podcast, which now we're in double digits of episodes. This is kind of feeling, it's our weekly conversation about trail running, I guess, but it's in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot more too.
There randomly, I like around the bout, but I think, yeah, it's been a minute. I feel like we haven't chatted in a while.
Literally weeks.
Yeah, which is unheard of for us, I think. But like, okay, before we get to like how our breaks were and like what we've been up to, I'm an anxious person. You know this. Mm-hmm. I'm just anxious. And trail running is where I normally go to not be anxious. However, have you heard the recent news in Colorado?
I knew what you were going to say. Yeah.
Right between you and I. In the past, so in November, there was a mountain lion that like charged and kind of like tried to attack a runner or a hiker runner on Crossier Mountain. And then probably last week, on the 1st, maybe, someone was attacked and killed. Horrible, like definitely not great. On the mountain running alone. Since that, like I've always been a little nervous about running alone, but now like all of my friends and I were all like, we group runs forever, I guess. I ran with pepper spray, like my tiny little running pepper spray.
Oh wow, you're there.
I was like, yeah, I went there immediately, and I'm like, okay, I know the chances are like incredibly slim. I know that mountain lions have seen me. I have not seen them. It's incredibly rare, but just because it is like at the forefront, it's even more in my brain. And you're in prime territory. Is this affecting you at all?
No.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. So, I mean, no, in the sense of like, it's always a possibility. And in my mind, like, anything's always a possibility, right? But my brain doesn't necessarily, I'm not the type who is like, I got a sniffle and I'm going to Google the symptoms and I believe I have that. I'm not that type of person.
That is my exact style.
Yeah, exactly. And so, or like the fact that it could happen makes you feel like it will happen. I don't know why, but that's not where my brain goes. And I've had so much experience, like, especially before this year, I'm becoming like a mid-morning runner. But most of my adult life, I've had to run in the dark all the time, all seasons. And so I've kind of like, and even in the dark, I would run trails too. And so, which is weird because I used to be so afraid of the dark as a kid. Like I had my steps, I knew how many exact steps from my bed to the edge of my stairs, down the stairs, and making it all the way to my parents' room so I could just wear the blanket over my head. And then like I had one run in college, and there's weird stuff that can happen in the dark and animals come out and stuff like that. And I just had this one run in college that like changed everything for some reason. It was like the middle of the night. Both my mom and I went out for a run. And like, I was always kind of weirded out about running by cemeteries still. And it was like in the dark, but for some reason this night, it was just like, let's go. It was like this beautiful, clear, but really cold night. And so like, honestly, it was a weird experience for me that it just like kind of flipped. And since then I'm like, no biggie for me personally. And so like, I'm okay with it. And the thing that I'm more okay with is that, yeah, statistically, mountain lions don't want you. They don't need you, especially in our area, which is why there was likely something wrong with this cat.
Right.
So statistics in our area, Larimer County, Boulder County, but especially in Larimer County, unincorporated Larimer, they have the largest population density of large cats.
What? I did not know that.
Did you know that?
Is
Yeah.
terrifying. No.
And then
it's worse.
well, no, but this should make you feel comfortable. And and then they also have the largest body size on average of anywhere in the country. And so we have the most and the largest cats of anywhere in the country.
I want nothing to do with this now. Like, even like my friends, I like farm house sit for them, and they saw a mountain lion in their front yard. Like, they live like close to Lori State Park, and they were like, it was massive. And they had like driven down their driveway in their big Defender. And they saw it and they were like, this is the most insane thing. And I guess like one of the homeowners, he had walked out with like a pellet gun and then saw it and he was like, oh, no.
It's not going to work.
He's like, why didn't I bring it? Like, just in case, like, I don't know what I was thinking. It was like 2 a.m. But also, let's go back to the cemetery thing. This is also where we diverge. I live near a cemetery by like City Park in Fort Collins. And I think like
the big one. It's a popular running route, isn't it?
Big. Like everyone, it's like the spot to see another runner. Like I will run into people. And I think the juxtaposition.
This is Robbie's territory. He likes running through cemeteries too.
Yeah, I think the juxtaposition's like, it's like a good, I'm like doom and gloom. And so I think just being like, I am being maybe my most alive right now amongst a cemetery. Good reminder.
Yeah.
They're actually, this is total random, but there's someone, I'm pretty sure it's a joke. And I love that it is probably a joke, but it's on their headstone. And it just says, allegedly died by saving like X amount of children from orphans from a burning building. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's like the last laugh, which I
love that.
I appreciate that as your final, that was like in your will.
Well, here, I mean, this is kind of like, I talked about this with my parents just over holiday break of like, in our family, it's just kind of like matter of fact, like when you're dead, I'm like, what do you want me to do with you, Mom and Dad? And they're just like, yeah, here's some options. I'm like, we need to get this all in writing. What do you want when you die? Do you want to be in a cemetery? Do you?
Taylor, I've thought about this deeply.
But is it in writing? You should get it in writing.
Oh,
we all need
it is. It is in writing. And I like talk to my friends about this, and they're like, our run conversations are so dark. I know. I'm like, what do you want when you die? But I don't want people visiting me in a cemetery. No, I'm being cremated, and like my ashes need to be like put somewhere where like I have enjoyed, or like I've been with that person, and like it's a special place to us. So like the desert is going to be riddled with me.
Just another few grains of sand in the.
That's what I like. I'm just like, we go into nothingness, and the desert is such like a good venue for it, because I'm like, it is like one of the very few places where I feel like time is very visual. And mountains obviously like formed over time, everything formed over time, but in the Grand Canyon or in like Moab, it is visual, where you're like, I can see layers of time and billions of years ago. And then I'm just thinking like my dumb little ashes get added to that mix. And it's like,
but it's also cool. Like, when you do die, like you have to be some form of existence, right? Of like, it could be just your body decaying in a box, and that's great. You could be.
Welcome to the new year, everyone. We're all talking about death.
We did tell you this is a trail running podcast, right? But I mean, even if you could be turned into vapor, it's a cool idea of like, even your physical, how you are physically still, of like, is still together with the world and with all the other people. I don't know. It's cool. Like, circle of life, and how we're all interconnected in life
Yeah.
and death.
Although, like, before we move on, I do not want reincarnation to be real only because I don't want to come back as a human. Like, oh, it just sounds so tedious.
Yeah.
Again, I'm just like, absolutely not. Like, I've really lucked out in so many ways.
Can you imagine being a young teen again?
Oh, no. My God. Like, just like functioning in the world today, like, I think I would probably just be like pure brain rot or something. Like,
Yeah, it's a thing.
right. Like,
Yeah.
anyway, I hope it doesn't happen. And if it does, I want to come back as like a French bulldog.
Ooh,
That'd be
okay, yeah.
great.
A loaf and Odie existence would
Yes, that would literally
pretty
be all
awesome.
I want. But back to running.
be back to running. Which, I mean, I talked about that with my parents, how they would like to be after they die. But overall, the holiday break was great. Even that conversation itself was just like kind of lighthearted and matter of fact. Like, how was your break? What do you do? Like, we haven't chatted for weeks.
I want to know what you've been up to. Like, I just talked about me getting my ashes spread. We know what
Which I would
to.
like that too, probably somewhere. I just don't know where. I need to figure that out.
Yeah, I'm like,
But,
we know what I want. What have you been up? How is running?
I do know I don't want my ashes spread in Nebraska because, I mean, for holidays, we make the drive all the way to the Midwest. My wife's family is in Iowa. My family's in Minnesota. And we do that. We did that for Thanksgiving and we did it for Christmas. And it's just part of it when you live farther away. So that's what we did. We went back to the Midwest. And man, Nebraska is so long every single time. That being said, there's like 3 different spots along the way that if I ever take that drive on my own, which without kids or anything, of like, I have like some pretty cool spots I want to stop in, just do some trail running. I think it'd be a cool like few day trip and just like do like drive for a couple hours, do an hour-long run, drive for a few more hours, do another hour-long run. It'd be a fun way to break it up, especially in the summer sun, but not in the winter. Not in the winter.
Yeah, I was going to say Nebraska in winter is brutal.
Yeah, which, I mean, we say that. We came back yesterday. It was 72 degrees in Kearney, Nebraska. What the heck?
Nothing
January?
makes sense anymore. I have been running in like, so I've been testing out like different winter gear. And
Which has been impossible. My skis are still right back there that I want to test.
Yeah, like if I want to test out a long sleeve, I just have to commit that I'm like doing heat training just to see like how sweaty can I get this shirt? Like how does it actually, what does it do? But even like I wore the Satisfy like Aura Light top, which like I'm obsessed with. But even then I was too hot and it's like a t-shirt, but I was like, this is not normal. That Colorado, it's like 70.
Yeah, I'm glad right now I'm looking out the window and it's spitting some snow right now. We need it so bad.
Okay.
And just like, don't need real cold. I did have a really cold run in Minnesota, but we don't need real cold right now. Just give us a little winter, I guess. But I did want to say, we've had the conversation of gas stations. Do you have a preferred gas station? Like we have our stops along the way, like that we want to avoid this gas station, but we want this type. Do you have any that you're like, I want to just stop there every time?
I mean,
or like,
on the East Coast, I'm nostalgic for Sheetz, but then normally when George and I both worked remotely, we would go to Tucson for a month every winter, and there's a gas station there, and I have a shirt from it that it says like the thing, and it's like Wall Drug adjacent, where it has like this weird dinosaur themed thing.
I'm in already. I love dinosaurs.
Yeah. And like, it's just funny to stop to. It's like this weird UFO, like adjacent thing. And I like it. But that's probably like the only one that I get excited for. I know here in Colorado, Buc-ee's, everyone is gosh. That stresses me out.
Which is a big thing apparently across the Midwest and South.
It's like the size of a Target.
Yeah. But a gas station and 100 stalls. We haven't been yet, but our girls always ask to stop. But it's in a weird spot.
Immediately now.
Yeah. But I mean, here's one. We've talked, like when I was in
Yeah.
Midwest, we always do Casey's for sure because that was the breakfast pizza.
Right.
And we had a listener comment in saying that Quick Trip is actually the superior gas station, which is across the Midwest. It is really nice. It's always clean, and it has like a grocery option. Like you can get pork chops there. I always get like some decently good fruit.
You would get
Yeah.
pork chops from a gas station?
At that gas station, I would. I wouldn't do it from all of them. Like Fat Dogs, we stopped at a Fat Dogs yesterday. It was nice, but it's
You
not
would
my
get out of the shoe
choice.
reviewing business and get into the gas station business.
Yeah, but the one I've been kind of impressed by, and it's showing up a lot more because they acquired a different gas station chain, Come and Go, which probably was around Fort Collins. I don't know. But Maverick, the Maverick gas stations, if you're in Colorado, you know about them. And yeah, I'm like becoming partial to Maverick. And so every time there's a Maverick, there's a whole lot more Mavericks along the way than there ever used to be. I dig it. Clean bathrooms, a decent variety. So that was my travel across the Midwest. The best thing was the Mavericks.
We aren't sponsored by Maverick yet, but maybe that could be.
We could work it into all of our travel stops.
I mean, I'm
now we
someone
have
who,
things
like,
to strive for.
I don't stop unless my car needs to stop. And in a Honda, I never need to. So like my bladder, like I will be like dying. I'm like, this car needs to run out. I need that gas light on. And
before you stop. Oh my gosh. I inherited a small bladder from my mom, and I'm like, gosh, three hours is like, if I am severely dehydrated, is like my max still. Of like you and we've had to cut some podcasts, do some editing in podcasts just because we're like, I gotta go to the bathroom because we're trying to juggle all the hydration needs. Which I do want to say, you brought up sponsorship, and we're talking about hydration. This is our first podcast that we have a sponsor, LMNT, LMNT Element. And I mean, I go to gas stations. One thing I like about Maverick is that they have the right variety of things in beverages that I want. Like they still have bubbly water. They still have some decent like electrolyte stuff if you are like in the middle of summer and just need a thirst quencher. And they have some like cold canned coffee that's not just a double espresso with some Red Bull in it. And so, but Element is one of those things that I've been like kind of striving after, especially these short cans. Have you heard of these?
No, I haven't.
And so
Those
Element
look good.
has been, oh dude, they're so good. They're half of the recipe. So they have 500 milligrams of
Very into that.
of salt instead of the 1,000. And they have 100 milligrams of potassium and 30 milligrams of magnesium, all things that I try to strive for in like nutrition, daily foods. But let's be honest, it's hard to kind of get those. So I'm glad it has it in here. But the best thing is, Robbie turned me on to taking the Element packages and kind of like splitting it in half and putting it into your bubbly water. And that was like the last time we had to cut our podcast because I had to go pee, was because I was drinking that like a lemonade salt with a citrus bubbly water because I just love the bubbly and the Element. It was just like post run, needed to replenish and just taste good and feel good. I love the carbonation after a run. But these slim cans in like this one happens to be lemonade salt, but they have like all the flavors and flavors I haven't even heard of yet.
I gotta try one of these.
Dude, we'll hook you up. I think this is the move for me most days. These slim cans, half the recipe, get the bubbly, especially post run.
I need to start doing
I can
sauna
think of anything
stuff.
better.
Yes, I need to start doing sauna stuff. So maybe that would be like a really fresh, crisp thing to have after sweating all of my water out of my body.
Oh, absolutely. Replenish for sure. And I used to, especially in the summer when I was like really training, let's be honest, I'm getting back into training now, which we should talk about here soon.
Yes.
I would like kind of do that split the packet thing, and half the packet would be like in the morning before I woke up, after 1 cup of coffee, of course. And just to like replenish some of those electrolytes, because I mean, you lose a surprising amount overnight, especially if you're in that training cycle where your body is kind of like recovering double time. And so I would kind of use half the packet for then and then mix the other half of the packet after the run with some bubbly. But now I don't have to do that. I can just do a double fist the can or something.
Love it. Here for that. Are you back to running again?
I am. I do want to say one more thing. If you want
Yeah.
LMNT, a little deal on LMNT, you can go to drinklmnt.com/dirt division. We have our own code. Isn't that pretty
Amazing.
cool? I mean, I'm
Love
pretty
that.
jazzed on all this, as you can tell. But you can get a percentage off of your first order, and you can get a sample pack, which gives you most of the flavors, which they have, again, a lot more than I ever thought. So drink LMNT, people.
Love that.
But training. I don't know if I could call it training yet,
Exercising.
but I am going to call it training. Let me say that. So over the holiday break, I was able to finish my Return to Run strategic planned program, which just felt so wonderful. And the progression has been so nice. I'm still like tight in those areas, which is just crazy to me that 4 months later, I'm still really feeling, I shouldn't say really feeling the effects, but noticeable effects, just tightness in that area. But I can run. I feel good for like, an extended period of time and not too crazy tight the next day. Like it just feels good to run again. So after I finish that, I've been doing like pretty much 5 days of running a week, which in the Midwest is just a lot of flat, and it happened to be pretty cold most of the times I did run this time around. And it just, man, I just really missed being able to depend on having that as part of my day. And just like how good your body feels. I really missed, and maybe this is the addiction part. If I am addicted to run, let's just say that. But I think the part that I crave the most, I'm finding, is that like slightly tired feeling all the time, that like base level feeling of tired. I didn't realize I missed that so much, like the training tired. And so there, I am getting back into training. How about that?
I love that. That's good. Yeah. How much are you, like, what's your mileage at right now?
I'm
time?
getting in. Yeah. So right now I'm just going to be upping 10% over the next few weeks. I was at like, 17-ish miles if I compiled it all to a week, and just kind of, I'm going to do that 10% until it either doesn't feel good anymore or I feel really confident about hopping into more training. And so like this week I'll have like around 20-ish probably, and then adding some biking in there too. And so I'm just stoked on being able to run, which is like, I'm not huge on the new year of like creating goals around the new year and all that. But it is really motivating because there's a lot of hype around it, and there's a lot of resources. And so I do appreciate just like the energy around it, I guess, the first. And so I'm just committing as we've rolled over to the new year. Like, I just want to run healthy. This is the feeling I want year in, year out, of like run healthy. And if I can perform, great. If not, I'd rather err on the side of being healthy. So I think that's kind of what this last year has taught me. I ran most of the year. I was thinking back a year ago, we went on vacation with my side of the family to Great Wolf Lodge, this like big indoor water park hotel thing. And I'm remembering back to a year ago, I was feeling the effects of my foot injury then. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even think it went back that far, but it did. And so like I'm a full year removed of just running through this thing, and I don't want that for the rest of my life. I don't want to just keep running through stuff. I want to run and feel good. So that's like my one goal this year.
Also, I can't even imagine like, and this is again where I'm just like every sensory input is always too much for me. And Great Wolf Lodge is literally maybe one of the worst places that I could think to put my being, where there's like indoor echoes of like children
Oh my gosh.
screaming and like the smell of chlorine. Like I like that already sounds so overwhelming to me that I'm like,
It
how did you even notice your foot? I wouldn't, I would have had on like noise canceling headphones.
and see, like
Impressive.
for me, it kind of like all blends in if it's not like directly in front of me.
Oh my
And
God, I'm so jealous.
so, but even so, like I'm a sensory experience kind of guy, like
Yeah,
hands on, get all the feels, the sounds, the smells, all that. And it is a very overwhelming place.
it's very
Let me tell you,
overwhelming.
especially your first time. And so this is kind of like our repeat thing we're doing for all of our kids, my kids and my sister's kids and my parents come. And it's a lot of fun in some ways. But I do want to say like that it's a great way to just get steps in. Oh my gosh. If you follow those kids around, it is insane. Just hours on end, just like through the lazy river, up and down all the slides of like, I was wanting to go on a run, but I decided not to because I had enough movement in that place,
Yeah.
in and amongst and around all of the people. It is insane.
Yeah. That
It's a lot.
it's funny. I'm like, in most areas of my life, I'm just like, I don't want people around me. Um, like I find it
Yeah.
very overwhelming. And now with like my anxiety of just like being attacked by a mountain lion, I'm like, maybe I could have like one or two people around me, like while I'm in
You
the
better
middle.
just stay home.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll be running on Zwift before I know it.
Oh gosh. And
I'm
then put it
kidding.
on
I never
Strava
do that.
so that Robbie can comment on it.
Yes, I would never. No, I'm not a Zwift runner. I don't have that treadmill. Also,
Oh. I have a treadmill here that's folded up and it probably gets like 2 runs a year on it. I always prefer to go outside. But how's your
it,
running? Because you are training. You're like weeks out from another big race.
uh, yeah, and um, a few things because I do want to get into the shoe that I've been running in
Hmm.
recently. But like my randomly, so I was testing out a shoe. I'm not going to name the shoe, but I think it was a little requires a lot of stability, which turns out I don't know if my hips are good with. And I must have like tweaked my glute med or something. And so I had like this hip issue, but the strangest thing, it definitely wasn't, it's not like bone or anything significant because I can do all the tests. And I'm like, I can do a pistol squat, I can do dead, like anything, and it doesn't trigger it. It gets stiff, but then the more I run uphill, the better it gets.
Oh,
So I'm
okay.
just like, all right, sounds like I'm
Uh,
just running
uphill
uphill.
tempos.
And it gets better the more I run, which is just like maybe it's confirmation bias, but it's so strange that like that's what's happening. So I like took it this last week was like my easy week. I still did like a decent amount. I think I ran like 50 something miles.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think Black Canyon is like 9 weeks away ish.
Hmm.
And on the 10th, I'm actually headed down to Phoenix with a friend. She's doing the 50K and I'm doing the 100K. And some friends in Phoenix, we're all going to meet up and run, I think like the first like 21 miles of the Black Canyon course. And then Marie and I will go and do like our own run on the course on that Monday. And then George comes down when she leaves. And then George, like, I'll go and run more. And like, George is going to go
You're getting
ride.
your desert fix.
Yeah. I just like, when we booked the trip, I had assumed that it would be like full winter in Colorado and it's not. So I'm like, well, I was worried that like 75 was going to be hot and it will be. But considering it's been like 65 here, I'm kind of used to it being decently warm. But I'm still struggling on like what shoes I will race in. But that being said, so normally, I don't know about you, but normally like we get shoes pretty frequently. And once I feel like I have put in enough miles in a shoe, I'm like, okay, moving on to the next one. And that it like ends up being like 40 to 50 miles. But I'm just like moving on to the next. But I got these Scott Kinabalus,
Which
and
is such a fun name to say.
I love the name. I
And there's the
have probably,
Kinabalu Trail because there's also one coming out called the Kinabalu Ultra. And
oh,
so, yeah, okay.
well, I want to
So,
try
and I
that.
haven't run in this. Yeah, so the Kinabalu Trail, if you're watching, I'm kind of spinning around, and it's a good looking shoe. Like the design of it, like
Yeah.
it catches your attention. I think it looks, really sleek and like fairly quality. But you've run in it. I haven't. What are you thinking?
I mean, the first, like, I've probably put over, I don't know, like 110 miles on them.
Already, and I haven't even run in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
can't
tell we're at
stop.
opposite ends of the spectrum for training right now. But I'm going out in them today.
I'm shutting my door because my dogs are suddenly barking.
Yeah, and those who don't know Scott, who don't know about like what the brand Scott is, it's the same as like there's a lot of cycling gear. They have a lot of high-end technical gear for many sports, but I mean cycling's probably their most famous. They do have footwear. They're kind of noted as that black and yellow brand they're kind of shying away from that in these types of colorways. And they were quite popular across Europe for being like just a lower to the ground, grip it and rip it type shoe. And we have had a couple shoes by them, but this one's quite different from those options.
And it's like, I ran in the carbon plated version that they have, and it's like the RC. I forget what it is, but and that one was fine.
Fine if you're okay with firm as firm can be, pretty much.
Yeah, definitely firm.
Good geometry.
The geometry was good. I felt like my heel kind of slid around a little bit, and so like I assumed like this was probably similar construction, but like it's like, to me, it seems like a cousin to the Prodigio Pro. I
In what
don't
sense?
know. Yeah, well, so I don't know the price of it. I'm guessing it's probably in like the 160 ballpark.
I believe
would
it is.
guess.
I can look that up.
Because it's got like EVA P-backs, so it's not like crazy high-end foams or a crazy upper. It's just like a do-it-all shoe. But I think just the fit, where like the heel feels really locked in. I think it has like a little more room in the toe box. But like it is a shoe that I'm like, I could just wear it everywhere. And I have been wearing it everywhere. The traction is amazing. I love that it's lower to the ground.
I love that it just says traction on it.
Right.
I don't know if you can. It's just
traction.
Yeah. Scott, traction. Rubber.
But to me, like, it's just all around incredible. I will say, like, the two things that I'm noticing though. So if you run with the footbed that comes with it, that provides a little extra cushion. But when I take that out and put my own in, you definitely experience like a lot more ground feel. You get a decent amount of ground feel with both varieties. And then the upper is definitely like a little hot, which is kind of a bummer. But I'm like, man, I have been choosing this shoe over and over and over again. Like I'm like beating it up, and it still looks great. And
I was already excited to run in it. Now you're hyping it up. And
I'm
like,
telling you.
Overall,
really
it's fairly standard. Like fairly standard in terms of design. But if you hit those standards at a high mark, like that could be a good performing shoe.
I'm just like, I would like to think, I'm someone who appreciates very nice, expensive things. I'm like, I love a good Norda, but like, I'm a simple person at heart. And I'm like, just give me a shoe that just works. Like, I don't know if I need that many bells and whistles. I just don't want to twist my ankle. And it like does that.
And you want to like, of course, these days we've been kind of like conditioned to some sort of softer, more energetic, midsole that has character. Let's just call it character. What do you feel with this one? Because like just by palpating it with my thumb, it kind of feels like a medium soft density. Of like, what do you say is kind of your experience there?
Yeah, I would say, and this sounds like a slight, but it's not. But I'm like, it's nothing like special, crazy. Like when I put on a Norda, I love the feeling and the rebound of the Arnatel. With this, I'm like, I will get ground feel, which I think is really good for like proprioception. It's helping me be stabilized. I don't feel like a ton of rebound and like that nice springy pop, but it's, I also don't feel like it's flat either. It's that somewhere in the middle ground where like, if you're in a technical race, you probably don't want tons of pop anyway.
Yeah. And I mean, that was like the Scott Super Track RC3 is one of those shoes that would like narrowly missed our year-end awards, but it was one of those shoes that it just fit really good. You had great traction and it was fairly minimal underfoot, but the foam that they used wasn't just a layer of protection. It was a little bit more than that. And that's like all you needed to have like a really great shoe. But this one obviously has a little more foam than that. So it's like, in some ways, has the potential to be more good, I guess, in that sense.
And I think it's like a 8.5 millimeter drop. But again, like it's not, you're going to like feel the ground underneath you, which I don't mind, but I don't think it's a shoe I could wear for like over 50K. Which is why like when you said that there's an ultra version, that is really, I'm like, oh, that sounds perfect. Like I would want to try that because this fit my shoe or fit my foot just so well. Like no heel issues, no slipping, no nothing. Like my toes could like splay a little bit. And I think when you're someone that like me who likes a really snug fit, I'll end up screwing up all of my toenails. And so something like this, where it does meet all of the criteria of fit, but I know that my toes are not going to hate me later on. Having an ultra version would be really nice.
Yeah, it was and I think it's basically the same makeup, it just a little more underfoot, which that sounds good to you, huh?
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
So overall, it says it's a 7 millimeter drop. They're saying the overall stack is 40 millimeters to 33, which like when I look at this, there's no way. What was that?
Was that the Ultra or the Kinabalu?
Oh, that is the Ultra. Here, let's go to the...
I was going to say, the Kinabalu...
Yeah, but even so, this one, thanks for saying that. Okay, so this one does have an 8 millimeter drop. It goes from 37 millimeters in the heel to 29 in the forefoot, which is still like... That's just becoming our normal of like... That would previously be high stack. This is just kind of the standard stack these days. And so it's going to kind of fall into, just that do it all in a lot of ways, just like the overall build itself. Yeah, it says it's a kinetic fusion foam, which is a blend of EVA and PBAX, which, I mean, my favorite foams currently are something blended like that. Oh my gosh, we posted a shoe on the Instagram, and so many people are like, oh, but it's still EVA. It's EVA. But some of my favorite foams are still EVA. You can do so much with it. I
think just for me, for like a do-it-all shoe that's like your workhorse that you're just going to thrash, maybe you won't race in it. Maybe you save that for a different one.
But maybe.
Yeah. But I'm like, an EVA, it does keep the price a little lower. And when you work in a higher end foam, it can complement it or like elevate it just slightly. So you're not like, you're not getting like, I don't know, any bad qualities of if you're like anti-EVA. But I do think it can keep the price down. And honestly, like a shoe like this, the fact that I've like been choosing to wear this over and over and over again.
This is not a shoe that I'd be like, oh yeah, Reese is going to love this.
Oh yeah. So I hope I'm on the Ultra to test that out.
Okay. Well, we'll get you the Ultra either way. Like, yeah. Oh man, I'm excited about this for sure. One thing, let's see here. I just wanted to say some of the things. So it just says versatile traction. Outsole optimizes ground contact and increases traction. I mean, these lugs have to be, are they 4 millimeter? I'm guessing. Doesn't really say under here.
Decent. Like they're definitely, and it's like a softer material. So while that, I haven't seen like a lot of degradation on it, but the softer material is really nice for a lot of the runs I've done in Colorado. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna have to cut this podcast short so I can go run in this. Jeez.
Yeah. I'm telling you,
so then
we're gonna enjoy it.
While we're talking about it, the differences with the Ultra are obviously going to be a higher stack, adding 3 more millimeters in the heel and an extra millimeter in the forefoot. So that's going to obviously at 40 millimeters. And for this shoe, I know that that's going to be counting the midsole, the outsole lugs, plus whatever's inside this footbed. And so not all places will measure it that way, but I appreciate more. I want the full measurement. Just give me the full measurement. And 40 millimeters is in that, like, that's getting into that max stack category, actually.
Yeah,
and
I'm excited. You have to send me the spec sheet so I can see it.
Scott. And here's the exciting thing. I just want to hype Scott a little bit more. Like, one, we had our experience with the SuperTrack RC3, their technical race model. This one's backing it up with obviously a good review so far from you.
Yeah.
I'm excited to get into it. And we have the Ultra coming. And if that would be 3 shoes in a row, if they're all, positive, that are really good for Scott. I don't know the last time they've had a really good lineup. They've had a good shoe here and there, but a full lineup, that says one thing. And I know that 2027 is actually the year they're really going to be busting out. And so keep an eye on Scott.
Yeah, I had started writing my review for them. And then how I started it was just like, I don't know if there's just a lot of stuff or noise happening in trail, but I'm like, I haven't heard from Scott in a really long time, and they are so underrated. I'm like, this is a great shoe. Like, I want to hear more from them. It got me really excited. I'm like, I should look at like what athletes they have, like where are they, like what are they doing? Because they're clearly getting like a lot of good input, and even like their gravel shoe, the Pursuit gravel.
Oh yeah,
I run that all the time still, like all the time. Great shoe. It's just like a workhorse shoe where I'm like, I have like miles to slog. I'm gonna put this on.
Yeah. And these feel like fairly like safe designs in my mind of like, they're kind of hitting a category and they want to do it really well, obviously. But so it'll be interesting to see when they start making some creative adjustments and making it what they would think, like putting Scott's mark on it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm curious about what they're going to be coming out in the next year or the new year as well.
Yeah.
New year as in 1 full year from now. But
oh my God, I can't even get there. Well, one of our gear reviewers he's a road guy, but he'll start with trail, but he was talking to me about like his plans for trail running, and he was already like envisioning 2027. And I was like, oh, whoa, I'm getting to like February 14th. And after that, I have not thought, I don't even know what my body is going to want to do. I'm like, good on you for planning your like 2027 100-mile run. I'm like, oh, I'm just trying to make it through the next 9 weeks in one piece.
Goodness.
I was like, and impressive. I'm impressed. I can't get there.
I think we're both in that same boat of like, when it comes time to register, there's a lot of races, like desired races around the country, around the world. Like, I don't even know at the time of like registration that I can commit to something like that or want to do it. So like, I feel like I missed the boat a lot of times just because my mind can't even let my mind go that far in my current state, for one, to sign up for something so early before it's But yeah, 2027. It's coming, I guess.
I mean, actually, now that I say that, I will take part of it back. So for Christmas, George got me, I'm
Ooh,
obsessed
I was
with
going to
it.
ask about Christmas gifts. Great.
Okay.
What'd you get?
Well, nothing running. Actually, and George redid my entire gear closet. I'll have to get a picture of that
Yep.
for you, George. That was like a big present because I get overwhelmed with clutter.
Go,
but
George.
He got me this print from Ansel Adams of basically the view from the South Rim looking to the North Rim. And it's like the rim to rim route. And he's like, we have to go back to the canyon. Like, let's plan a trip in the fall. And I'm not doing rim to rim again. That I feel pretty solid about that time. But I was like, I think I have a little unfinished business with the Tonto Trail, just like the part that I kind of had like a total come apart on, just like a panic attack. So I think I'm going to go back and just redo that section because I was like, I need to enjoy it and not, I want to like see the canyon in all her glory, execute it really well. Because I just felt like I didn't get to enjoy how stunning it is. And so I think we're going to go back and
So are you
envisioning
like that's going to be just an easy run for you, or are you wanting to take time off of your, okay.
Yes. Oh yeah. Cause I was at that point, I was worried about being too hot and running out of water. So I just like slowed down. I was like, I will hang out in the shade. I'm going to walk some. I feel good, but I'm like, the moment you get into like heat exhaustion, you can't come back from that. And so I was like, I'd rather err on the side of caution and just not overdo it and be like a statistic in the Grand Canyon. So just like completely down regulated. And so now I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back and do it right this time and do it fast and do it well and like see it. So like, I guess I am planning that. But
okay. That's still 2026.
Yeah. It's still
and
2026.
here I am like, I'm planning out my week currently. I just have to go week by week right now, which is exciting that I can even plan anything.
I think that's great.
Can we go back to Christmas presents though? What are some things you got? We don't do a ton of gifts on our side, but I got a coffee grinder that I've really wanted. I'm a coffee guy. So that was really exciting for my girls. And we're redoing our kitchen. And so it's just some things for that. What adult gifts? Wonderful. But I didn't really get anything running related. Did get these cool, they are satellite walkie-talkies.
Whoa.
And so even some of the walkie-talkies I've tested, you can only get, in this type of terrain up here in the mountains, you can only get so far before you're breaking up and you have to be at good vantage points, all that. So it's supposed to be able to like satellite to anywhere as long as you have the code, and they're fairly small. So I'm excited to check those out to see like what that actually means. That was an in-law gift, which was I'm like, wow, you go in-laws.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dean and Becky.
I love that. That sounds super fun. I would play around with those all the time.
Whether in the kitchen or 800 miles away.
Like this is what happens when you don't have kids. You just like everything becomes like this toy and you're like, okay, drive across town. Let's try this. You go here, bring it on a ride. Let's try this.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. That's my vibe.
So I'm excited to do that. Okay. What else was on your list? What'd you get?
So I got like George redid my gear closet, which like that involves like a new gear, like a dresser, and he built shelves and it's all like organized and pretty and everything has its place, which
I love that.
It makes
when
me
everything
feel
has
like
its
very
place.
zen. Yeah, very zen. Because like this closet behind me is like gear that I use day to day or it's currently in testing. And same with like all the clothing in my room, like the running stuff. And so in the basement, we have like a big walk-in and that's for like, just like past shoes, maybe I don't wear all the time or like even past clothing that I've reviewed already. Or it's like, I guess, summer season, even though it's still summer here. So I just kind of like keep things down there. And then my father-in-law got me new AirPods, which I'm appreciative of.
Ooh,
because
yep.
running on the road, I do run with music. I think, I don't know. Again, I'm just a highly sensitive person, and like having a lot of like car noise, it like that
I get
is
that.
like, it's a lot, I think. And so if I'm doing like intervals or anything like that, I just listen to my, Biggie, Tupac, Miley Cyrus mix, Destiny's Child, the classics, if you will. So listen to them, get hyped. And you know what? Some music has like not aged well from the 90s. But
Yeah,
I'm here for it.
I've gone down that
I'm
road and found that out a few times, thinking like, oh,
listening.
this is going to be a fun little jam for us in the car on our road trip, and then like, whoa,
Yeah.
no.
There are songs I listened to as a kid, and I was like, I had no idea what they were talking about. Like, this is
Oh no.
highly inappropriate for like a 12-year-old to be singing. But actually, one of the songs that I really didn't age well is a Missy Elliott song. It's like the Mean Girls song, and it's Past That Dutch. And the start is like her coughing, and she's like, attention, there's a virus going around, and it's causing coughing and like fever. And I was like, oh,
Okay.
this did not age well. Like, this is like, and like, obviously, Missy Elliott did not predict the pandemic, but I'm like, oh man,
Yeah.
this doesn't feel
Here we are.
good. Yeah. I was like, dang. But
But it'll
anyway,
get you pumped to run, do some
yeah,
intervals.
I do like listening to some classic. I'm a millennial. I'm a kid of the '80s, so it feels good to me to listen to my shitty music.
Oh yeah. And I'm like, unless I'm running on the treadmill, and then I save like YouTube videos, like, weird trail runners documentaries. I save those kind of things for the day or two of the year that I have a big list that I've never actually watched because I just save them for treadmill runs. But yeah, and every now and
Love
then,
that.
it's fun to listen to music.
I
As long
love
as
that.
it's loud. If you're going to listen to music, you got to hit it loud. I
Yeah,
can't just like softly in the background. But I'm also the type of like, when I went and did Leadville or any of my ultras, I've never used music or podcasts or anything for any of those. It
no.
just
I think for
like it.
racing, I can't do music. And maybe this could be like an entire podcast. I would love to, like, I am highly, again, this is the theme of this is like highly sensitive to sensory input. And like music is something that I like always have on. Like, it like has to match my like inner state, or like it sets my mood. It's like very informative. It's just like an input that like if it's wrong to my
Yeah.
mood, I'll get like ups. I'm just like, I got to turn this off. Like, this is giving me, this is
We're
like
done.
too much.
Yeah,
But I
which is
think,
kind of weird because every other scenario for me, like typing a review, I can have music on. At our
Yeah.
house, I like background music, but
always.
it's not on a run apparently.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, I think like for racing, it's a really immersive experience. And I think that the
True.
music could take away from that experience a little bit for me personally. But let's explore this topic later. I think there's a lot. I
Okay.
want to think more about this.
But let's just have a podcast. Well, I'll
Yeah.
stop it right there. But
Yeah.
if you want to hear more about some music, I just listened to the Drop podcast that Thomas and Robbie did with Molly Seidel. And
nice.
and she's really into music, and like the idea of having like a full album and going through like, I love when albums have like a storyline arc almost. And so
Yeah.
like I can see myself, if I was going to listen to something, I'd want to listen to an album from beginning to end. Yeah, kind of feeling it out through it. We'll have an episode on that. How about that?
Yeah. We got to get you back to like, I don't know. And maybe this is like a different time, but if you listen to like rap or R&B of like the 80s, 90s, that it's so storytelling and like so poetic. And I think like maybe people will give me shit for that, for saying like
Hmm.
Tupac or Biggie or like some of like Salt and Pepper, like but it is such a dialogue, and they'll have dialogues with like other artists, like conflicting artists. And I just think that that's so interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
like there's a creative depth to it that you
yes,
can
very
engage with.
creative.
Not
It
all music
wasn't,
is like that.
yeah, it wasn't like nearly as formulaic as I think some of the stuff maybe is now, which like makes me
Yeah.
sound like an audiophile, and I'm not. Like, I'll listen to anything.
Okay. And
But
if you are listening to it, it's on those brand new AirPods.
yes, it is on brand new AirPods. Which, okay, also before we go, I did
Yeah.
every year in January, I throw a fancy party
Ooh,
where it's,
you're a New Year's person?
no, it's not for New Year's. It just like happens sometime around this time, but it's not like a New Year's party
Okay.
because I need everyone
I
out
can't
by like,
stay up. Like I can't even
no,
attempt.
everyone needs to be out of my house by like 9:30 or 10. Like, get out of my house. I want to go to bed. Although this year we did stay up till like midnight, which was way too much. I was like,
Whoa.
absolutely not. Terrible.
Should have
But
done it on New Year's Eve.
the purpose is, and I recommend everyone do this, it's really fun. I only see most of my friends in athletic clothing, whether it's a cycling kit or running gear. And the requirement is you have to dress up in like something nice. And like whether that's like a dress you bought for a wedding or something, like I don't care. But somewhat you're going to be in a suit, you're going to be in a dress or a pantsuit. I don't care what it is, but you're getting ready and you're coming to my house. I'll feed you, I'll get you drunk. I don't care. But like, you are not in spandex. It is so fun seeing people in dresses, like, like they're nice, they're dressed to the
Without a
nines.
helmet. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, everyone's looking so good. I love it.
Well, in those, like, how much of your conversation then end up being around like, wow, you look so good. I didn't even,
There,
like that kind of stuff
yeah.
instead of all the running and whatnot.
Well, half the time, like, and it definitely happens. So I'm small, I'm 5'2", so I can wear really tall heels, and I have very tall heels. But I woke up the next day after wearing them for like 4 hours, and I have like an injury.
You're wrecked.
My calf hurt. My calf is super stiff 2 days later, and I was like, oh, I don't think I'm used to being like
It's the
at this
heels.
weird. Yeah, no, it's the heels. And so everyone
Did,
that showed up in shoes that we were going to wreck ourselves, we all were like, I think we're going to be injured and not be able to run now.
I have one pair of dress shoes that I'm like my friend turned me on to a great idea is if there's dancing at a wedding, you just bring an extra pair of shoes for dancing instead of, he's also a runner. But yeah, my dress shoes look nice, I guess. But man, yeah, every time I wear them, I'm like, there's no midsole to this. I'm flat on the ground. It's narrow at the toe. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to do some serious recovery
It's,
just because I'm wearing these shoes.
yeah. And I know we're like, getting close to time here, but I will say it wasn't a present, but it was a little bit of a present.
Okay.
And it involves shoes that are very dressy, but maybe not sporty, but it's the new Nordas. Not the new, not the 5.5s, but like the new colorways. And I happen to be the sample size for Norda, which is
Perfect.
quite possibly the best news I have
Put
ever
that
gotten.
on your resume.
Yes. I'm like, I am a sample size for this. And the Norda Santa showed up and gorgeous. Just, it's all good. I am like,
Do you have them nearby?
No, they're downstairs.
Okay.
They're pretty. They're very pretty.
I mean, we did post a few of the new colorways coming out, and they all look nice. Such tasteful design without being like too much I should say. Even the ones that you would think would be too much that are like the camo and whatever blue they use, like it just works.
Yeah.
And that's coming from a dude who doesn't, I appreciate the performance a whole lot more than the design itself, but Norda's just one of those ones on all their shoes. Even the sandal, that's like, just works.
And the sandal gets a little bit of a colorway update, and I have it, and I'm
okay.
pretty excited for it.
Well, we can't all be sample size, can we?
Oh, I'm like, can we find the 5.5 somewhere? Surely you have it. I would love to buy that immediately, selfishly.
I mean, now that everybody has seen it, we had done dinner with Nick and Willa and Norda crew in Chamonix when we were there. And we got, I don't know if you were there, but I saw an early glimpse of it, just a flash of it through the bag. And I'm not too shy to ask questions about it. And so, I mean, samples are obviously around.
I know. I'm like, what are y'all doing? Yeah. I need to figure out my Black Canyon shoe because I'm stressed out about that.
Gimme. Yeah, and that could just solve it for you. Okay, right? What are the contenders for Black Canyon? Is this a different conversation?
I don't know.
Let's just work on this conversation here really soon.
Yeah, let's do a music and shoe paralysis episode.
Yeah, and just us throwing out and talking ourselves into and out of and all around all these options.
Yeah,
which is the hardest part. Even with like the Kinabalu that you brought up of like, there's so many shoes within that category that it could be like, oh, the Endurus probably does really well there, feels really good. Yeah. Maybe that new Speed Goat that we're going to see is also going to be in that category. Like there's so many good options, like which makes it hard to score. Like we were talking as a Believe in the Run team this morning of like, how do we adjust our scoring system? One, in part because there are so many good shoes and a lot of them are kind of churning out a very similar score. And I don't think that's like necessarily dogging on our scoring system. It's just the reality that there are so many shoes out there that are actually good options.
Yeah.
And so how is it going
to be a runner?
But a good option for me might not be a good option for you. And
right.
Yeah.
But if someone has made it this far into this conversation, I would be curious what everyone else thinks I should be wearing for Black Canyon.
Yeah. Because you haven't been on the course, right? I mean, you've been in the desert, you've been around that area, but you haven't been on the course. So please, people, make recommendations. This is not a brand centric conversation because you're going down there on your own.
Yeah, I'm going down twice because I go down Saturday, stay for a week, and then I go back to race it in February.
Okay. So here, this will be our trajectory. In, let's say, so next week, Alex is going to join us for talking about crewing and all things crewing. And so Alex with Believe in the Run, she's a reviewer if you don't know. And so we're going to just talk about the ins and outs of crewing and kind of like not just philosophies around crewing, but also like morality around crewing, I guess you could say. Yeah, a lot of stuff.
I'm going to touch up on like my Aristotle and Socrates, just get some like Immanuel Kant. Yeah, let's get some morality.
So pretty much how every one of our runs ends up being a conversation in that realm. I'm sure our conversation, even about crewing, will go there. But then how about 2 weeks from now, 2 episodes after this one, we'll talk about your shoe choices.
Yes. I'm here for that.
Okay.
I really need the Brooks, what is it? The Cascadia Elite.
Yes.
I feel like I want that one thrown into the mix. So if Brooks is listening, please send that to me.
Send it over. Which would probably be another, just stellar option.
So anyway, I'm in
I did want to ask before you go, I would consider this the New Year's episode. We talked about kind of our winter breaks going into New Year's. And I did mention my one goal is to be running healthy, but there's a couple other things that I would like to do as well? What are some things you're hoping and looking forward to in 2026? Could be your own personal or anything about anything, let's be honest.
I want to spend really quality time with my friends and family. And I want to do that outdoors, hopefully, whether that's
Mm-hmm.
like going on a bike packing trip or which I have like, I guess that some planned. I want to go to the desert. I just want to spend like time with the people I really care about. And I happen to like moving around outside and most of them do too. So I think doing that, and it doesn't have to be just running, which I really want to like get back into cycling a little bit more, get better at horseback riding. I want to go back to the Grand Canyon and just do that section well. That feels really good to me to do that. But yeah, I think just make really deliberate choices about how I'm spending my time, or and making sure that like how I spend my time is really aligned with like my values and the things I care about, and not do something just because I think I should do it, or just because it's popular or it's the race to be at. It's like, do I like this thing just as it is without any outside influence? Like, would I want to spend time there? If yes, do it. And that's for like anything. Like, I really am very deliberate in making choices about how I spend all of my free time, just because I don't know, it feels good. Like, and I also want to go back to Western states.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we'll have to have just a whole nother conversation because the calendar is filling up, and even things that you don't even know of yet that I would love to tell you about, of like 2026 is going to be a year. Like we thought 2025 was awesome for the dirt division. We could make it that and so much more already.
I love it.
There's just so much to look forward to.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah. Yep.
I really think, my big thing for every year, I'm not changing, right? Like, I'm not getting better. Yep. this is who it is. It's who I am now. But it's less doing, more meaning, and just really, really focus on meaningful things.
Well,
and connections.
I mean, to your point, like, isn't filling your cup in the ways that you need or desire, couldn't that kind of inherently make you better though?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I think you're right.
Of like,
I'll show up better for everyone else and myself.
Well, yeah, because my best self, I know how I felt after traveling for 13 days, even with people that I love to be around, traveling for 13 days, really poor diet, not being able to like, not have your own things. Like those kind of things can really wear on you. And I was very aware of I wasn't my best self in some moments. Yeah. And so like, but that like kind of translates to all things in life, right? Of like, if I can be my best self and show up best in any of these situations, I will be thankful for that.
Yeah.
For sure.
I always think
that's why I want to run healthy.
Yeah. At work, they're always like, oh yeah, take time off. It'll make you more productive. I'm like, me as a human, I'm not taking time off to come back and be more productive. I'm taking time off because I need it. Like this is selfish. Like, I'm not doing this to make myself better for you. I'm like, I'm doing it because it'll make me better. The externality of maybe being more productive could be a byproduct, but that's not my intent.
Yeah.
Let's be
But
clear.
Thankfully, I feel like I know you enough to think of like, you're not just going around here in life, just taking what you can like a pirate, right? Of like, you got some real intentionality in that.
Yeah.
Okay, here we are getting into Nebulous again.
Yes. Maybe this is the Dirt Division Nebulous podcast. I'm here for it.
As always. I did have two more things.
Okay.
One thing I just want to say, sometimes just saying it out loud is helpful. So I want to run healthy. And in that, I want to be healthy enough. And this would include me like being able to do my little like, need to continue my PT, doing some strength training, probably doing something other than just running to be able to just like pop into pretty much any adventure I want to, like a day or a half day's worth of running time of like, so that's going to be like my ultimate goal, and just like be able to pop into any race. I know I'm not going to be able to plan for any race this year, but if the chance happens, I would love to just be in shape enough to pop into it. And I want to take more landscape photos. I used to take so many photos of nature and this and that, and a lot of them have become about shoes, which I love and will continue to do. But I am committed to taking more landscape photos. My last year one was I wanted to take more family selfies. I feel like I've been doing that well, and it's becoming, again, more part of my daily. I want to be able to remember all of this, not just the shoes, which I do love. Again, shoes and gear, but
you got to remember the people and places you love.
Exactly. That's why these other things are special.
We should do a bike race this year. Come do a bike race.
Oh gosh. Yeah, you could talk me into that before.
Yeah. We normally do one in May.
Okay.
May is a long time away.
Let's talk. That's fine. I mean, but I could probably plan on biking, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk for sure. Okay. Next week, tune in with Alex and Crewing. This week, just have a great week.
Take it easy.
Okay.
Bye.
Peace out. Hey, this is Taylor with Believe in the Run, and today I get the privilege to sit down with 7Mesh co-founders, Ian and TJ, and they both play different integral roles within their company. And a little background on them is, like, I can't give you much. I didn't know much about 7Mesh before we got an email for reviewing their product. And so for a product person to not know about a brand gave me a lot of intrigue. And just a quick search of the quality that they claim to bring, and we're going to ask about all that, is really intriguing. So I'm going to let them be able to talk to their specific backgrounds, and then we'll start doing a deep dive into their products and why 7Mesh might be just set apart from some other brands within that same playground. And so Ian and TJ, welcome to The Drop.
Hey, thanks, Taylor. It's great to be here and appreciate the chance to speak with you and meet and get to know you today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, maybe we'll start with TJ, and it doesn't always have to be like question to you type of platform. But for background's sake, TJ, you're a co-founder, CEO of 7Mesh. Can you give us a little background on who you are and how did you get here at this point in your career?
Yeah, so as you'd expect for somebody running a small technical apparel business, I'm a biologist by background. So had a degree in biology and didn't know what I wanted to do with my life at that point. I was thinking about doing a master's in biology, really wanted to, but wasn't sure where that would take me. This was way back in time, and I'm a little bit older than I look maybe. I ended up getting a job at a tiny little company called Arc'teryx, and it was a climbing harness company at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, climbing harnesses, they're best known for, I'm sure. It was sub $1 million in sales and was kind of just getting off the ground, and ended up reporting to the founder of the Arc'teryx brand, Jeremy Gard, and his partner, Dave Lane.
What year was that, TJ? What year?
Oh, man, you're killing me, man.
Yeah, what year was that?
I started there in 93. I ended up working at Arc'teryx for
I was 1 year old.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, I'm dating myself a bit. Thanks, Ian. Twist that knife, buddy.
I'm here for you, buddy. I'm here for you.
So I ended up working there 18 years, and I was the CEO for the last 8. And that was a really quite a wild experience. I was going to say great, but it was great and wild. And it was very stressful, but very exciting. And we got some good things done. And that knowledge, a lot of the R&D and innovation stuff that happened at Arc'teryx was quite pioneering at the time, and has changed the way technical apparel is built globally today. And that knowledge and learning was something we really enjoyed, always pushing boundaries and wanting to go forward and wanting to offer things that are new to people. But we were all multi-sport athletes. We were all, most of us were climbers, most of us were skiers, most of us were mountain bikers or runners or whatever. And we saw gear progress a lot, but we were never satisfied with our cycling gear that we were using from other brands. And so after complaining about it for a long time, with a few friends like Ian, I guess it's kind of the classic story of a couple of us decided, well, maybe we need to go back to a small business and see if we can build the kind of stuff that we want. And that's where 7Mesh was born.
Okay, that's in a nutshell. And then you said R&D, and Ian, that's more your focus. as
Totally.
VP
Yeah.
in
So
R&D.
I started at Arc'teryx in 2001. And so the company had been through some changes. It was still pretty small. We had our own factory, which was really interesting. I was coming on board and it had an established group at that point, had maybe 6 people in the kind of design development
Oh, wow.
department.
Yeah.
So it wasn't very many, but it was a little bit bigger than Seven Mesh is today, actually, is size wise. But we didn't, because we were making stuff up as we went. There was no infrastructure; it was total chaos, right? Like everyone was
Just
kind
a
of
bunch of mountain guys wanting to have good gear, huh?
pretty much, and stuff was the business was growing very fast, So it was basically everyone was just trying to hold on to the reins and keep up. And so that was from, product was never delivered on time. There was always challenges making it. We were making a ton of it in Vancouver, like at our own facility. I mean, it was a kind of
Oh,
a
wow.
wild ride. So, I started as an intern working in a closet basically, and then kind of worked my way up into the product. And I'd been building product my whole life, climbing harnesses, backpacks, chalk bags, you name it. I grew up from a very creative kind of family of architects and engineers and textile artists and whatever. So I've been kind of making stuff since I was a kid. Went to university, did a couple of unrelated degrees, and then ended up somehow there. And then kind of just worked my way up. And TJ and I actually used to carpool. We were one of the only 2 people in the initial days living in Squamish, which is sort of north of Vancouver. And back in the day, people didn't know anything about Squamish. They'd be like, "Oh, it's that place where we get gas on the way to Whistler." And so it kind of came into its own, primarily from mountain biking, and then now it's really known. Obviously, climbing was the big thing in Squamish back in the day.
Yeah.
It was one of the best climbing areas in North America, and then it became into its own with mountain biking trails being developed, and then those people running on them, and now that expanding the trail network. And I would say 2010 is probably, when the Olympics came through, there's a lot of funds and money. And that's when Squamish started taking off and being kind of well recognized and well known. So, and so we would kind of like, we laugh about it because Callum, our other co-founder, is not here today. We always say that Seven Mesh was founded in the carpool. Because we basically would carpool back and forth from Squamish to North Vancouver. And one day we were just kind of spending a lot of time walking around with computers, telling people what we were going to do versus actually just doing it. And, I always say to people, I'm like, well, and then one day I just decided to flip my desk over and leave, but that's not really how it happened. But we kind of just said, let's just, maybe it's time to do something different. And so that's in 2013. Seven Mesh was kind of born, and we had to kind of pull every string we knew known demand to try to get the product from nothing. We had no products, no office, no anything, to getting it to a first year of production. So, I mean, we presented products in the summer of 2014. So like 9 months later, at Eurobike and Interbike, when there was trade shows to go to. Focused on bike primarily at the time, but really, our focus always, because we're multi-sport people, has been on kind of, and TJ will get into this a little bit more, about motion and moving through the environment and managing moisture and solving problems. And so, I'm going to just say it outright because you'll get this as you listen to us talk, is we're just total gear geeks, right? Like we geek out on the fabrics, the features, the weights, the packability, like all of it, we geek out on a lot. And so, we kind of believe in that model of craftsmanship, of like, we physically build product in our office. We physically kind of understand what's going to happen there. We tinker with things, and then we work with some of the best factories in the world to produce it. But we do that in a very different way. And that's, pushing the materials envelope as much as we can, working on patterning, kind of getting into those things. So that's kind of our background. And it comes from being makers of product and being able to build those things with our own hands.
Yeah. And I'm sure, obviously you had to apply for jobs at Arc'teryx to get into that business for so long. And they've always been known for quality. Of course, a specific use case in terms of mountain athletes. So I'm kind of curious of, like, obviously that has carried over to 7 Mesh that care about quality, more specific use case. But I'm kind of curious about, when did that conversation in the carpool go from like your ideas that were involving Arc'teryx to, hey, maybe it happened like this brand isn't serving this thing we want to create for. How did that, like, who kicked the bucket first, and what did they say?
Yeah, well, TJ had left the business about a year prior. And so, there was some challenges with management and things like that. And maybe TJ wants to get into that or doesn't want to get into that. But
Anything goes.
And so we kind of, we'd always talked about, we're all riders, right? We're all multi-sport people. And we always talked about the limitations of the products we were using and how shitty they were. And so, we're old enough, don't want to date ourselves too badly, but I guess we already have, but that we can remember when outdoor retailers kind of sucked, that you'd go in there and it was a really bad shopping experience for people, and you couldn't really, there was no change rooms, and it was a bunch of climbing gear in the corner and maybe some apparel on the side. And it was kind of like, rough and tumble, and it wasn't a real retail experience. And then we kind of looked at bike shops and we're like, well, it's all grease monkeys, right? It's all like a garage that got turned into a workshop. And then they're like, oh, maybe we should carry some apparel. And that it was thrown in the corner. And most of it, like not on the mountain biking side at the time, mountain biking, 12 years ago, mountain biking really didn't have a uniform. Now it's kind of more established in having its own uniform. Mm-hmm. Road cycling obviously has had a uniform for the last 50, 60, 70 years. And then as you get into gravel riding, gravel riding wasn't a category when we started this business. And so it was stuff we were doing as like people, and it kind of evolved into this category. And so, we looked at the retail opportunity. We're like, we don't think like that. We actually more think about products. Every time we get into a business problem, mm-hmm. we're like, let's make more product. And you're like, no, that's a horrible idea. We should actually like put some money into marketing or sales or something, not like make more product. But we tend to can't help ourselves because that's how we think about things. And, the retail experience was bad. So we kind of envisioned, hey, there's going to be a change in bicycle retail. There's better margins in apparel for the retailers. The really good retailers will have a great experience for apparel. And so we said, why don't we make some really nice apparel for riding and see if we can make a go of that? And I think, in the last 10 years in hindsight, I think there's some retailers have done that. And they've done a great job of it. We have a few retailers, especially in Western Canada, where we're like, okay, you guys have really turned around, what your business was 15 years ago to where it is now. And they sell a lot of apparel and at good margin, and they can service that customer, and they take people out for group rides, and they're like, oh, it's raining today. I need a jacket. I don't have a jacket. Let me go into the store and buy one. It's a great experience for people. And so some retailers haven't taken advantage of that, and that's too bad. And so the cycling market for apparel is generally pretty small for the most part.
And were those your own observations, like going into having been in bike shops? Because back in the 2000s to early 90s, like you couldn't just surf online for the products you wanted, and that's your retail experience. So there's no like interface besides being in the shop. So were you guys doing that often? And then, I'm trying to think
we were doing it as like users, like going into a bike shop and going, God, they could do a nicer job of this. But we weren't market researchers here. TJ, I don't know what TJ's going to tell you.
Yeah, we're kind of on the product and on the product building side. This sounds, to business professionals, this sounds naive, but this is what has worked for us consistently for 30 years is we build products that we understand, that we want, and we build them for users that we understand and for activities that we understand. And if we do that right, then we tend to bet on that's what we're able to do well. And if we do something well, then people will find value in it. And so we're not very good at studying the market or studying competition or looking at what other people are doing. We kind of follow our own path a little bit and try to do something different, because doing things the same as other people doesn't bring any fresh value to the world, doesn't give any people any new options. And we're trying to push things forward. So what Ian's talking about is really that you're right. You've identified something really, really crucial that is different today. And when we left Arc'teryx and started 7 Mesh, we said, hey, what do we want to take with us about that wild and great and wonderful experience? What do we want to carry with us from that? And what do we want to leave behind and do differently? And I would say one of the biggest learnings we've had at 7Mesh is that you have to build brands and serve consumers in a different way today. And talk about really dating yourself. I'm going to say that the biggest difference is the internet. And Arc'teryx was essentially built pre-internet by largely focusing on product and letting retailers do all of our marketing and storytelling. Arc'teryx had a very small marketing budget for a long time, focused on building product. And those were in the days when if you wanted to know what the best shoe was or the best ski was or the best backpack was, you went to the local retailer you trusted and you said, hey, I need a backpack. What are the best, what will serve my needs? These days, obviously, people have gained a lot more information on the internet and can do a lot of their research themselves and do a lot of purchase selection themselves. That makes it harder for a place like a bike shop to invest in developing brands and invest in apparel and give a great shopping experience because, they're not providing service to customers in the same way because the internet has changed how retailers interact with consumers. So for us, going into biking, we envision that bike shops with apparel would either have to get stronger in apparel or would struggle. And like Ian said, we've seen some do each. We believe that, great apparel, really the challenge we have as a business is that great apparel doesn't show up differently in a postage stamp sized image on your screen. It's how it fits, really how it feels, how it moves with you, and how it performs in the field. And so not having as much on the way of a really strong clothing retail network means that we have to work a little bit harder to get products out there and understand it. And the nice thing about what we do that's kind of different and speaks to where 7Mesh fits in the ecosystem differently is that we do understand a lot about outdoor and weather protective and backcountry, what we call kind of like, backcountry technologies that you need. If you're in the backcountry, our argument is that if you're in the backcountry as a trail runner or as a mountain biker or doing any other kind of activity in difficult conditions or in Squamish and BC and in many places in the world, you can get into life-threatening situations just like you can mountaineering or skiing or climbing in a remote area. And so taking best-in-class technologies, best-in-class ways of thinking about making protective wear that it also enables the user from the alpine, mountaineering, climbing, backcountry world, and applying that and learning from that and applying that in all activities lets us offer something to people that lets them push more comfortably into these difficult situations.
Can I ask what is like, if we could look at one of your bread and butter products, if we look into that and how you specifically designed one or a couple of those, first of all, what would be a couple of those products? And then how did you specifically design those to meet needs or that?
Sure.
Just to get a really concrete visual of 7Mesh and applying it.
Yeah. Okay. So Ian, why don't I tee that up? I think we should talk about the Guardians because I think that might be relevant more relevant than many of our products for runners. So 7Mesh started off, roughly 10 years ago and 100% focused on cycling. And, but the interesting thing about that was we wrote the first plan for 7Mesh, tapped it out on a computer at a picnic table kind of thing. We designed our first plan around what we wanted the business to be, not what categories we wanted to serve. And so we intentionally tried to not say cycling anywhere in our first business plan and then just add it in where needed at the end. And the idea was to set up what are the kinds of products we want to give people? Who are the types of people we want to help? What kind of activities we want to make for? Where do we want to sit in the world? What are the values of the business? And that gives us an approach to product of trying to find fresh value and bring people new options. And so we set up the business in cycling, but our original business plan said maybe at about the 10-year mark, we might go beyond cycling into something else. And so we're constantly working with ourselves, our community. We have many product testers and feedbacks on the local committee. We have pro level athletes, we have our own staff, et cetera. And we're constantly watching what everybody does and learning and continuing to figure out how can we help people do more of what they want to do today. And with that, I can maybe let Ian talk about the product specifically, but a few years ago when, the pandemic situation boosted the bike industry and then tanked the bike industry when it got into trouble afterwards, when the bike industry supply chains came roaring back and delivered a whole ton of product right when the pandemic kind of ended and everybody could go do other things again. And it really slowed down the bike industry. And so at that time we started saying, hey, let's look around and think, where are other ways that we can bring fresh value here? Because the bike industry is going to be slow for the next couple of years. And we'd achieved some critical learnings. And maybe, Ian, you can take the ball from there, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, obviously focus on outerwear because that's what we just launched in 25, and we're pretty proud about what we've been working on. But that project started 3.5, 4 years ago, and it also started from the work we did in 2013 when we started the business on outerwear, and we kind of developed all these technologies. And with cycling, we were always worried about moisture management because you're moving quickly through the environment. You're sweating a lot because you're in an aerobic activity. The We always worried about packability because you want to be able to store that when you have to take it off. So and so because it's packable, it's really lightweight. And so all those things kind of came together. And I remember one of the women in the office, and TJ did the same thing that same winter. He just said to me, he's like, "Wow, I'm looking for a jacket for like ski touring. I'm going on this ski touring trip. And I need to buy a new jacket. What should I buy?" And I'm just like, "Well, you should buy our Copilot jacket and just buy a larger size." And he's just like, "What? What do you mean?" Because our stuff is quite fitted, and we do that through. We want it to be as close to the body as possible, but still have really good range of motion. So we spend a ton of time working on articulation and fit. And so recently we had a customer, and they said to us, "Oh, well, your sizing is too small for our customer." And I'm just like, "Excuse me, too small? What do you mean?" And they're just like, "Well, it's like 7 centimeters, or 2.5 inches, difference in chest circumference." I'm like, "Have you fitted it?" And they're just like, "Well, no." I'm like, "Well, go take your medium and go try it on, and go take our medium and try it on. Don't look at this physical size when you get the measuring tape out." And this is the difference between sizing and fit, right? So sizing is how big it is physically, and fit is how it's going to fit on the body. And they're not attached. They're actually decoupled. And so they try it on, they do the fitting. They're like, "Yours fits larger." And I'm like, "Yeah, because we've built in articulation. We haven't just made it a big, square." I always use the example of, you remember the old Grinch cartoon where he cuts out the sweater with the scissors, and then cuts out
Okay,
the
yeah.
two people pieces and puts them together like, they're the same front and back. I'm like, that's how some people view patterning and how to build garments. It's just the two sandwiches coming together. And so we do things very three-dimensionally. And so that garment has got articulation and fit into it. So we are making a garment that uses less fabric, and it's lighter, and it's got more forward articulation. It's got all these things. So, TJ came to me, this woman came to me, and they said, "What should I buy for ski touring?" I'm like, "We should buy the Copilot jacket." And they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Well, it's not as high in the collar as you might want it, and the cuffs don't adjust, but like it's got everything else. If you just upsize, it's actually probably a better garment than half the ones out there." And that got me kind of thinking. And I'm like, "What's our weights on our Sky Pilot jacket and our Copilot jacket?" And I started comparing them to the lightest jackets out there. And I'm like, well, it's like, our Sky Pilot jacket is like 3 grams heavier with hand pockets and full features and all these things compared to, the lightest Arc'teryx jacket. I'm like, well, we're already really light. And that's because we've done all this work, but I had never really done the comparables. And so then I said to TJ one day, we were kind of on the same thought process, and Conroy, who works with us on product, I was like, I bet we could make like one of the lightest, most packable jackets out there if we actually like decided to do it. And so then we just started this project to like see what we could do. And so there's also the change between, PTFE, EPTFE with Gore-Tex, and with removing these PFAS chemicals. And so there was an opportunity to do something different. EPE, the new Gore-Tex membrane, is a lot thinner and a lot lighter than the previous one. So there was an opportunity to save some weight and bulk there. And then we're like, well, if we take every single element that we've developed so far and we've designed and we've worked on for years, and we refine it even more, then we're going to create a new toolbox for 7 mesh, and then we can move forward with it. And, it's no different than what we did at Arc'teryx, on the original outerwear. I worked on climbing harnesses or backpacks, and we create a platform, right? You create this toolbox of technology, and you work on that for a few years. Once you have the toolbox developed, you can now design into it, right? You have new tools which you can now use in your design process in the future. And so we were like, well, we've already done all the work in the past. Let's redefine our toolbox, create this toolbox that's new for how we're going to move forward. And let's make it lighter, more packable, more breathable, new ways to breathe, new ways it's going to work, new ways we're going to adjust things and make it work. And what came out of that is we ended up with these jackets that are now best in class, lightweight, they're super packable. They're really refined. All the features are extremely considered and work really well. And the why we're talking is because that wasn't intended to use for cycling, and it wasn't intended to use for running necessarily, or mountaineering or skiing or climbing. It was intended to work really well on the human body, and it was intended really well to be lightweight and packable. And those things inherently work for all these activities.
For a lot of
And
different
so
activities. Yeah.
for a lot of activities. So, we've had like, I don't know how many jackets we've sold to like UTMB runners who are looking for the lightest, most packable jackets they can find, or people doing ultra cycling events, or people that are climbers and ski guides who have been doing this in the industry for 25 years. And they know they're only going to take their shell out of their bag once a day if a storm rolls in or whatever. So they want it to be light and packable because they got to carry all their emergency gear. So the applicability of this, we always said that the word multi-sport was a dirty word because it means that the product doesn't work for anyone. But our product isn't multi-sport. Our product is best-in-class lightweight, best-in-class breathability, best-in-class functionality, and articulate it to work in a functional way on the body. So, and that, because we've considered every single little detail, like tiny tape, or working on the laminations on the back flap to make them fold easier, it becomes more packable. And that packability for trail runners and cyclists and the high end of the tip of the spear on the mountain people and mountain climbers and ski guides, and that it's a relevant feature that has been lost years over years. And that times the development of EPE, and it already being 20 to 30% lighter, man, the garments are really light and they're really packable.
From a usability standpoint of like being a gear reviewer, I've had probably upwards of 100 jackets over the last 5 years. I have like behind me, like I have two.
You
two
get a couple
jackets,
pairs of shoes there.
Just a few, yeah. So I have two jackets, like exactly to your point of like, because everything that they claim, and jackets have claimed this for years, having waterproof capabilities, functional movement, breathability. That seems like counterintuitive to waterproofing, right? And I would like to talk about that a little bit. But out of all these hundreds of jackets, one I keep because I really like the cuffs, and it's actually waterproof. The other one is like waterproof and more breathable. And so like, and then the other ones are just, wind layers that I can pack up and throw in my waist belt. So then when you have a jacket, and again, like, you guys can convince me of anything right now, of like, you're claiming best in class of pretty much all the major categories for a jacket. So I guess, go ahead, TJ.
Yeah, let me jump in for one second, and I'll give some context on why we think we're qualified to actually even be sitting at the table talking about this. And
I love that. Yeah,
and we're here to talk, and we love chatting about this stuff. We nerd out on this stuff all day long, and love an opportunity to share. And let's be really clear here that we're trying to push boundaries in areas where athletes need boundaries pushed. You know what I mean? It's we talk about innovating in product and focusing on product, but it's not about product to sit in a museum. It's about product that's supposed to help people go do things, and that's what we live for. That's what we get up every day to do. And so when we were at Arc'teryx, we never made product that worked on bike specifically, because bike has a very different body position. And it's very difficult to make product that works on a bike and does other things. We did not know how to do that when we were at Arc'teryx. When we started 7Mesh, we didn't know how to do that at 7Mesh either, and it wasn't our goal. Our first goal was to serve cyclists properly with stuff that was specific to cycling, and we did that for 10 years. When we look around now, and I know this is going to sound arrogant, we're uncomfortable saying some of this. We think of ourselves as kind of humble Canadians that don't speak up too much. But when we left Arc'teryx to start 7Mesh, or with a view that we were going to start 7Mesh, it's because we weren't satisfied with what we saw there. And we felt compelled to do something about it. We had great climbing gear. We had great climbing apparel. We had great skiing gear. We had great skiing apparel. We didn't have what we wanted for biking. We felt compelled. 10 years later, we're looking back at the outdoor industry and saying, it's a sea of sameness out there. Everybody's so complacent. Arc'teryx is running away with the global outerwear business, and everybody's kind of standing around watching and just trying to sell puffy jackets. Like, come on, guys. Where's the innovation? What's happening out there that's exciting? 7Mesh is a team of 24 people, and we launched our Guardian Air this fall, wanting to see what we could do that would work on the bike and work for all these other activities. and it's 40% lighter than Arc'teryx's lightest jacket. I try to benchmark against Arc'teryx. It's the brand we know best, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's like, how many pieces of kit does anybody have that they use for any outdoor activity that are going to get 40% lighter next year? And this is the kind of stuff that gets us fired up and excited. It's that we can make a difference with the product. And so part of what 7Mesh is doing right now is reminding people that performance can be improved and still matters, because gear is a lot better now than it used to be in general. It's hard to buy a really terrible product. There's a lot of pretty good products out there. Standing out is harder, but it doesn't mean we need to stop moving forward. And so where 7Mesh can offer some unique value, and we know this now, we didn't know this when we started 7Mesh, is we learned from mountaineering, climbing, and backcountry experience at Arc'teryx. I was there for almost 20 years. Ian was there for like 15. We learned from those conventional outerwear brands. Then we jumped into cycling, and we've learned for 10 years in cycling. Where that has brought us is a really interesting spot. Mountaineering is where all the traditional outerwear brands came from. Mountaineering historically is an extremely slow activity, like 6 months to achieve your objective. You fly around the world, you set up a base camp, then you set up advanced base camp, then you camp 1 and camp 2 and then camp 3, and then you summit, and then you slowly retreat and go home. That has gotten faster and faster and faster over years and decades. And so alpine climbers are moving much faster in the backcountry, high-speed athletes. I mean, you know all about this. The way of thinking now is getting in and out of danger quickly, as opposed to being in danger for a long time, but as protected as possible while you're there. That's coming from the...
and to your point...
Go ahead, sorry.
Well, to your point of being a highly aerobic athlete, being trail running, even on a long day's effort, I mean, you're moving pretty quick, being pretty warm. There are some times, don't tell my wife this, that I choose not to bring certain products. Often that's a waterproof jacket because of the weight or the bulk, even good ones. Like I have access to good ones. And so I'm kind of just connecting with you, just saying if your performance metrics are so high level and 40% less, if we had a shoe that was 40% lighter, all of a sudden, that's like the next frontier, right?
Exactly.
And so
for sure,
the best jacket for me is the one I'm going to take, right?
The best jacket is the one you have with you, is an old alpine climbing saying, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
So Taylor, I'm going to speak directly to that point, because I'll finish one thing and I'll add a quick story at the end that touches directly on that. So at Arc'teryx, we learned from mountaineering, from climbing, and we were part of that. We did our little part of that evolution of contributing to product as the sport evolved. When we jumped into cycling, we had to learn a lot. We had some answers from what we knew, from our experience, but we had a lot to figure out. The outdoor world is full of non-stretch fabrics, woven, durable, etc. The cycling world is full of knit fabrics, high stretch, low durability, low water resistance, etc. We had to learn how to serve athletes in a different way. And we spent the last 10 years working with athletes that are the fastest moving athletes in these difficult conditions. So you think about that slow moving mountaineering evolving faster, jump all the way to the other end of the spectrum, and you've got road riders that are doing, covering 200 kilometers in a day, going up multiple passes where they go from, near freezing temperatures at the top, descending with their heart rates very low while they're soaking wet, and then riding up the next mountain, with their heart rates at 180, and it's a warm sunny day in the valley at the bottom. And so the conditional change and the requirement to manage moisture and changes in aerobic output it's like a completely different activity to design apparel for, obviously. Now we've got learnings from both. And I would say 7Mesh is almost uniquely positioned in the world that we understand better now, how do we serve athletes that want to combine those two things and move really fast and work really hard, but stay as durably safe and comfortable as possible when conditions could get life-threatening. And we think we're uniquely positioned to do that. And we think that's the journey that we're starting on now. It requires an entirely new way of thinking about layering systems and the function of each layer in your system and what it does, especially in the PFAS-free world, to manage moisture and heat and comfort. And that's where 7Mesh is going. And this was partly fueled by, speaking directly to your point, Taylor, I had 2 experiences when I was the CEO of Arc'teryx where I got caught on a ride and seriously exposed and hypothermic, and in one case, and got myself into a solo situation that was kind of life-threatening. And I sat there going, how is it that I'm the CEO of what I think is the greatest jacket company in the world, and I didn't have a jacket to bring with me on this, that I wanted to bring with me today, that that I'd be in a much better place today than I otherwise would be. And both of those were road riding in the Alps, and which feels like a comparatively safe activity. And I got myself into
Yeah.
real trouble. And so for 7-Mesh today, what we're trying to do is go to athletes and say, hey, throw out some of your conventional thinkings of like, well, Gore-Tex doesn't breathe enough for aerobic activity. Well, if you want to run in the backcountry for 4 days, you need something that's going to protect you and that's going to work while you're running. And we think 7-Mesh is informed to do that. And we focused our Guardian collection, which was our launch this fall, on addressing the needs of athletes that, what we call modern athletes, modern explorers. People are moving differently and thinking differently about how to approach their objectives in the mountains and in the backcountry, and we want to serve that.
So we're all product people, and we know a lot of technical details and acronyms and all that kind of stuff. If you met someone at a coffee shop or a gas station and they wanted the skinny on, like, I'm just looking for a jacket, what are some recommendations in like layman's terms of like, these are some things you should look at? Like if someone's listening to this, they could get some helpful tips of like, if you're looking for a jacket for some sort of aerobic activity, I mean, cycling, running, backcountry skiing, if you're doing the uphill, touring, that kind of stuff. What are some recommendations on just aspects of a jacket they should look into or feel like is important? And then we can get into some of the technical details of materials and chemicals and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, good question. So I'm going to jump in on this one. It's tricky. I always say when people ask you a question, I come back with like 4 more questions because, the reality is you need to understand kind of what they're going to use it for and how they're going to use it. So if they're looking for a rain jacket, then I'm going to recommend one thing. If they're looking for a wind jacket, I'm going to recommend something else. We all know that the idea of breathability and air permeability, those are 2 different things. Breathability means, that there's a heat, there's heat generated by your body. It's pushing water vapor through the garment, but it is impervious for air permeability. And so, air is not going to naturally move from one side of that garment to the other. It has to have some driving force pushing it through. Air permeability means that air can, there can be an exchange of air in that garment. And so typically, that you break those down by, does it have a coating or a membrane, right, that makes it breathable versus air permeable, or it just becomes waterproof and not breathable and not air permeable. You can have a coating on there and stop that. So, we break it down. And pre-PFAS, pre the PFAS free garments, I would have answered this question really differently. And now post PFAS, if we look at, the future going forward, because we're, not every country in the world is on the PFAS thing, but because certain states in the United States
could you describe PFAS a little bit for listeners?
Yeah.
When you say PFAS.
So we've heard lots of different things. So PFAS chemicals on garments. We've heard the word forever chemicals. You heard PFOAs, PFOSs. There's all kinds of them. So there's a large umbrella of sort of long change fluorocarbon chemicals out there, and they're referred as PFAS chemicals. And there's a big umbrella of like 5,000 chemicals in that. Under it, there's toxic ones that have like carcinogenic problems and all things that have been removed from the supply chain for 10, 15, 20 years. Those have been gone for a long time. So if we think back to like C8 chemistry for DWRs back in 2008, 2009, 2010, that was the last time those were used. They're still used in like firefighter gear and things like that, where they're required those things. But people get really confused on what they do for garments. And so I'll touch on that really quickly because we could go down that road forever. They do 2 things. People think about they think about them as DWRs, right, on the outside, that's a durable waterproof repellency that creates water beading on the surface of the garment. People think about that, and then they think about those are where the PFAS chemicals are used. This is true. They are used there, but their main role in waterproof breathables is they stop oil from contaminating in those membranes. And PFAS chemicals are used everywhere. They're used in the tires in your car to stop oil from soaking into the rubber and making them slippery. They're used in the paint on your walls. You have stain resistant paints. They're used on, everyone's seen the Dockers khaki pant commercial where the guy throws the spaghetti sauce at them and half of it is treated and it bounces off one side and it stains the other. That's oil contamination resistance from PFAS chemicals, essentially, is what that is. They're used in carpets, they're used everywhere. So if you look at outdoor textiles, it's like this big on the graph, right? Like it's so tiny. And if you look at industrial plastics, it's like, just say it's like a millimeter or like, an eighth of an inch, and it's like 10 inches high, the graph, right? For industrial plastics. So they're used everywhere, and we've become reliant on them as people because they have these amazing characteristics of being, this fluorinated chemistry. And so it's an element on the periodic table. You can't get away from it. And so by removing it from the supply chain, it's done a bunch of things. So the GWRs on the outside don't work as well, right? So they're now like acrylic paraffin, or they're some kind of treatment, but they're not as effective as they used to be. And that's because you're removing this critical thing that worked really well for that. The secondary thing they did was stop oil contaminating into the membranes. And everyone's like, well, where's the oil coming from? Well, laundry detergent is oil, right? Like it's a type of oil. And so what's happening now is that if you think back to Gore-Tex circa 1993, it had a reputation in the industry called leak tex. And I actually think people are all still in the industry think that they shouldn't wash their Gore-Tex. Like we still get that question all the time. And I think it stems back from the leak tex generation when it didn't have a lot of PFAS chemical in it. And people were worried about washing it because they knew that as soon as they washed it, it would start to leak. And so when I talk about leak, I'm not talking about DWRs. I'm talking about the membrane is fundamentally letting water through it when it's contaminated. And so when you think about membranes, waterproof blends, there's basically two kinds. There's microporous ones, which is like Gore-Tex and polypropylene, and those have like a microstructure, right? So like a grid structure where air can move through, or water vapor can move through, but water can't move through. It's the pore size of it and the structure. The secondary kind, which you see in a lot of stretchy garments, is a monolithic membrane. And that monolithic membrane is like a solid layer, as the term defines, monolithic. It's one layer. That works fundamentally different. Those are garments, you put them on, you start off on a run or ride or whatever, the water absorbs into it. It has to absorb into it. So it has to go from like water vapor on the inside to now a phase change to water, absorbs into it like a sponge, soaks through it. That heat on the inside of your garment pushes it through, and then it has to evaporate and phase change again into not water, but water vapor to get out of the garment on the other side. So it's really hard for those to work. So they work really well when you first put them on. You go for a quick run and you're like, oh, this thing is breathing really well. Well, it's not breathing because it's monolithic. It doesn't breathe at all. It pushes moisture through it and it tries to evaporate on the other side. But what happens is that you build up sweat really fast. You absorb all that sweat is soaking into it like a sponge, and it hits a critical mass where it can't move moisture any faster than it's doing already. And so then you're like, oh, I feel really wet and I feel uncomfortable. I feel clammy. I got to unzip my garment and let it breathe. Well, that's because the sponge is full, right? The garment can't take up any more water. Yeah. And so fundamentally, those garments are great for like 20 minutes, half an hour maybe.
Or but they're not dry climates itself.
Correct. Or in dry climates, but they're not great. They're not great fabrics for people that are doing multi-day, or people that are going into the backcountry, or people that are reliant on that. That's where these microporous ones are really working. So we've always defined waterproof as microporous. And that has changed a little bit, because what happens now, if I take a microporous membrane and I wash it in my washing machine, like, without PFAS for the, there are exceptions, which I'm going to tell you about in a sec, but typical old one, if I took EPTFE, like old Gore-Tex, or if I took polypropylene and I wash it in a washing machine, one laundering, even with tech wash, and I can take that out and I can go for a walk out here in British Columbia on a moderately rainy day, and I will get wet through it. And that's because the surface tension changes with this oil contamination. And the PFAS chemicals are not there to stop that. And the companies just made the change. They just turned the PFAS chemical tap off and made a change to that. And what's happened is now we have all these garments that just don't fundamentally work. And when you put them on a standardized lab testing machine and you test them at high pressure, so water column test goes up, they test it to a typical water column, they don't leak. And that's because this porous structure kind of it seals it closed. with the pressure level really fast. And so you don't see the leaking. But if you put it on really low pressure, it leaks like a sieve, like really, really badly. And so there's very few companies out there that have done the research properly, in my opinion. And we've tested hundreds of these things over the last 5 years. And Gore-Tex, I love to hate Gore-Tex. Like when we started this project, I didn't think we were going to go with Gore-Tex because they're great people there, but the company is just painful to work with. They're a big company. They are family owned still, which is I actually really admire and think it's great. But man, they have really done their work on the EPE membrane. So EPE is a bicomponent membrane. They figured out how to make microporous and monolithic and kind of come together with these two layers, and they figured out how to make it work really well. And it's not as breathable as old Gore-Tex. It can't be, and for two reasons. One, it has to have more resistance for that moisture vapor to come through to get the oil contamination and to make it waterproof. And the Gore's guarantee is durably waterproof for the life of the garment. But everyone's like, what does that mean? I'm like, well, that means it's going to be waterproof from day one, the same level it's going to be at the end of life. And that's what they're trying to guarantee. And that's really hard to do post PFAS. The secondary thing it does, it's bold, and they've done it from day one, right? They've stuck their flag in the sand, and it's hard to do, and no one else has done the research. And everyone loves to be like, "Oh, Gore-Tex is poisoning the planet." You're like, "Well, Gore-Tex is the only one who spent hundreds of millions of dollars researching this and done it properly." And all the other garments out there, in my opinion, are dumpster food because you're gonna wash them once, they're not gonna work.
I mean, the one jacket I do have back there is Gore-Tex.
Right. And so people are like, oh, Gore-Tex is a marketing word. And we've heard that like hundreds of times from all these YouTubers or whatever. I'm like, well, it's not really.
Taylor,
it's because they've done the work.
Restate one thing here because I just want to make sure that we got this across right, because I'm not sure if Ian, I think you might have said a word, you might have swapped out a couple of words. I just want to make sure it's clear here. So
that is 100% possible.
What we're talking about is when you have a when you have a microporous membrane, which is the kind that we prefer because, and for most endurance athletes in general, a microporous is a better structure because you don't have to go through those phase changes. It slows it all down. But when you have a microporous membrane, what we're saying is basically what we've discovered in the last 3 years is that in the post PFAS world, the historic test of what everybody in the entire industry globally uses to assess waterproof performance is flawed. And we found that out the hard way by wasting about 2 years trying to go down other roads for new platforms that ultimately failed. And so what we're saying basically is that when you crank the pressure up the standard way on that test, it compresses and closes all the holes in the membrane so that water can't get through. Whereas when Ian talked about applying less pressure or turning it up slowly, that's the real world. The test is the super high pressure that is not replicated in a rainstorm or whatever. It's just intense full water pressure. When you turn the pressure down and turn it up slowly, water goes straight through these contaminated garments. And that's what people are going to start experiencing in the field right now with brands that haven't done their homework and are releasing some products that are going to contaminate relatively quickly and allow this water through. And so, I mean, this knowledge we gained, we showed it to some of the most senior kind of people in some of these organizations we deal with in these global powerhouses, and their jaws dropped when we showed them the video of what we learned and stuff here. So this is a pretty fundamental shift that we're waiting to see how it plays out in the industry, but we have seen some products be replaced, recalled, and failed in the field. And people haven't identified necessarily the why behind that. And the why behind that is the contamination that results from the textiles being PFAS free. And that contamination can come from body oil. It can come from laundry detergent that with additives, et cetera, et cetera. So definitely garment care and paying attention to what works and what doesn't is something that's been crucially important for people that benefit from this gear over the next 3 to 5 years, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean, it's partly why I have a job, right? Like a company can claim anything, and it's my job to put it to the test.
Totally.
And you're getting me really excited to get one of your guys' jackets.
So there's one more thing that I think is important to touch on of how waterproof breathables work, and that's we talk about DWR on the outside and why it's so important. So think about that water vapor that's built up on the inside, and it's trying to move through that garment. Well, now if the DWR is less effective on the outside and it wets out very quickly on the outside, and you've got hot air on the inside, cold wetness on the outside, what happens when it hits that waterproof breathable air? It condenses,
moisture on
right?
the inside, yeah. Yep.
Right. So people are feeling that condensation more than they've ever felt before in a post PFAS, PFAS free environment. And so to do that, you really got to think, how am I going to make the garment work better? Well, I've got a better chance to make it work when it's closer to my body, because that air has less chance to lose that heat. It can move through while it's still warm. The other thing is that those mid layers and the under layers are really important to have high air permeability, because I want that moist, warm air to move through the garment. So closer to the body, more breathability and more air permeability in your mid and base layers, and trying to trap less moisture. And to do that, you have to use the right materials. Like polyesters pick up less water than nylons, for example, or wools or whatever. And you're trying to move that moist air out of the garment as quickly as possible. Do we have to have different ways of venting the garment? Like all of our jackets have a double zipper, so you can unzip them like a cape while you're running and just open them up. Things like that.
Which is one of my favorite features, honestly.
Awesome. So you can have more breathability built into those things. And so you got to get creative, because, the materials we're not going back to PFAS chemicals, and it's going to be a long time if in our lifetime we have replacement chemicals that work the same way they worked before. And so I think there's going to be some really interesting things come out of this in the next few years. But, out of all the waterproof breathable garments we've used, the Gore is beautiful. And it's also, like I said, more packable. It's way thinner and it's way lighter. Like, the same fabric, same backer that we've used previously on our Apex jacket, for example, in post, EPT, when it was EPTFE, it was 112 grams per square meter. That same fabric now with EPE as the membrane is 78 grams per square meter. So, that doesn't sound like a lot, but the other thing is it's so thin, we can pack it really small. Like our Air jacket has a 15 denier face fabric. It's the lightest face fabric that's used in the Gore-Tex range today. And when we pack it down, it's tiny, right? Like it's the size of, my hand essentially.
I could fit that in my running vest. Yeah.
Right. You could fit it in your running vest, which was the idea, or you can strap it onto your bike. And we have these little clips that do that. And so you want the best protection you can get in the industry today. And we want it to have as packable and as lightweight as it can possibly be. And how you use it is your choice.
And Taylor, I'll pull that back. I'm going to pull that back to answer your question you asked a little while ago, but I'm going to bend it a little bit, because I think I can answer a different question that'll be more helpful for people, which is you inquired about, like, what are some things to consider or look at in the garment when you're looking at that garment. And what I'm going to suggest is, you've kind of heard a bunch about some of the individual things, but what I would say is the biggest thing that we want to teach people in the next few years or help with, and we don't claim to have all the answers here, but is to think of it as a system. Don't think of it as an individual product. And historically, a lot of people say, "Hey, I can't use Gore-Tex for high aerobic. It's too sweaty. It doesn't do enough." I'm an advocate. I've done a bunch of stuff. I've done some baby ultras. I do a lot of long distance riding in inclement conditions. I'm a big fan of Gore for that, but I wear almost nothing underneath it unless temperatures are quite low. And a lot of advice I give people is, if people say, like, "Hey, I get too cold when I'm riding," I say, "Well, you should wear less." And that always surprises people. But I think what happens is, people sweat inside they put on some sweat box jacket, whatever it is. They've got some layers underneath. They ride, they run, they do their thing. They get hot, they sweat, and then they get really cold because they're soaked in sweat and they're trapped in this box. And so the key is to prevent this massive moisture buildup in the first place. And so I always tell people, wear less to stay warmer as a thought process. And that's not always true, but it's kind of indicative of the way people need to think about it. So whether you're considering a 7-mesh product or anything else, our advice in the post-PFAS world especially, but this has always been true, is think of it as a system. If you want to be comfortable under there, you need to find ways to get heat and moisture away from your body while you're working hard. And that means the fit of the garment makes a massive difference, because if you're using body heat to be the driving force behind evaporating moisture that's 4 inches away from your body and has got 3 layers in between, it's just not going to happen. And so we advocate layering systems that have high air permeability, that let moisture move really quickly, that wick things away from your body, that transport stuff actively to the outer membrane, but keeping that outer membrane as close to your body as possible. And this, I would say this advice is generally true regardless of whether you're wearing a waterproof jacket on the outside. Absolutely. Is think of it as a system, and you want to put as few barriers as possible between you and the things you want to get rid of getting out. And so as you evaluate a 7-mesh jacket or whatever, evaluate it in terms of what you think you might be wearing underneath it. And so for a lot of time when I ride in the winter, I'm wearing a Gore-Tex jacket with like a ultralight polyester base layer, short sleeve t-shirt underneath, and nothing else. And it's people think, well, that's a weird setup. I'm like, it creates a microclimate around my body, lets me fit really closely. You crack a zipper and that you're instantly feeling that cold air right against your skin, as opposed to like, going through a fleece layer and a puffy layer and a bunch of other stuff. And so really be deliberate about your choices for the conditions. And, ideally with a kind of an alpine philosophy layering system where you can strip off a layer and put it somewhere. And that's why, we implemented the stash system. So like when it's too much and you need to take that Gore-Tex jacket off and it's not raining and you're hot, ours pack up this small and fit on your hip pack so that on the belt of your hip pack, so you don't have to carry a backpack in order to accommodate that kind of thing. And so these are the, when you look at some of the new technology, you say, oh, well, this isn't as breathable. Well, it's not, but it's also more packable. It's thinner. It's more supple. There's some cool things you can do with it. And that's where, we look at the industry and say, we launched our product deliberately this fall because we knew with the PFAS regulations change, almost every brand in the world would just do what we call search and replace. And I'm sorry to be brutal, but that's what happens in the industry. It's like,
the real deal.
What's our technology story for the year? It's the new Gore-Tex is the technology story. We'd use that as a starting point and say, how do we optimize that platform for the user? And that's what we spent 3 years doing with Guardian jackets. And now as we roll out our layering systems over the next few seasons here, that's the thought process that we're applying there.
Well,
sorry, that sounded super shilly. Sorry, everybody. I'm not here just to plug ourselves. I'm trying to be helpful. Sorry about that.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear, because my kind of wrap up question for you guys is, like, we've talked a lot about the jackets, and you guys do have some other layers available on your website. So if you're going to build kind of a layering system, like attached to this episode, our other reviewers and we talked about running in winter. And so we talked about different layers that we would use. And most of the time I use like a base layer and a vest with a little bit of insulation on the front. And that does me really well for most of the winter. And then occasionally I'll grab a jacket when there's some moisture or wind. And let's be honest, we're just on the forefront of winter. And I think people would, after this episode, obviously go to your site and be able to do some surfing. You guys have a whole lot more than just the Guardian jacket. So if you guys are going to kind of build a system that would work of your products that would work for most of the winter, what are some of the things that you would kind of push people toward checking out on that they could find on your website?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I will answer quickly and say that what we did, we wanted to make sure, and this is treading into this territory, so I want to be really honest with your viewers, is that we wanted to be really clear that we don't want to try and resell cycling gear as something that it isn't. That's not our goal here. Yeah. And so what we did this fall is we launched purely product. The Guardian jackets is a very small collection and a pant to go with it that we built specifically over multi-years to do multi-sport. And we validated through ski, bike, run, climb, all self-propelled, not on area skiing. And we built these products to work extremely well for that. So they were not built as bike jackets that do more. They were built completely different from our bike collection to serve this need. We do have products in our existing collection that people use for crossover activities all the time. But we didn't want to water down our message. So this spring on our website, there'll be a bit of a transformation, and we will be really clear at communicating which products have been validated for multi-sport use and which are pure cycling. And so we're calling that this spring, We're going to call it our Explore collection, and we'll be able to spell that out for your viewers. It'll be really clear what works and what doesn't. Today, we do have a bunch of products that people use for crossover activities. And maybe, Ian, I'll let you speak to a couple of favorites there of stuff we use. And the funny thing is, like, we don't really talk about this, but we get this feedback all the time. And all of our staff and us, we use these things for other activities. And so we can share a little bit about what we think. But officially, what we're telling people today is, hey, this is all cycling stuff. If you use it for that, you're using cycling stuff for it. But yeah, some of it works really well for that too.
Totally. And, I would say that some of our products that we are either in Explore or going to move into Explore, they're almost too warm from a runner's perspective. So like our WTV range from a running perspective, as you just said, I go out in the winter here in Colorado and I wear a base layer and a layer on top, or maybe I wear a vest. I think that's very true. And we do have some vests. Our WTV range is quite, it's sort of this woven fleece. And, you see that from a lot of different people. it's my like go-to ski touring piece because I can wear it as my mid layer all day long and I never have to take it off. I can just take my shell off and on depending on what the weather is doing or vent it. But from a running perspective, I think those pieces are going to run too warm for that. We do have some base layer pieces, but they are more cycling focused base layers. So as we move forward, that will change a lot. But again, our big focus is about building this system that has high levels of air permeability within it, because we know that the outer shells are in the future here are going to need that more than they've ever needed it before. So, my recommendation for people who are running in cold weather is to get a base layer, mid layer that has the highest level of air permeability, and then open and close your shell depending on that. Because whether it's a rain shell or a wind shell, if you can vent it really well, it can work when it's snowing or raining. It can also work as a wind shell because it's going to block 100% of the wind. Our Northwoods wind shell, for example, is part of the Explore collection. It's available in its new fabric this spring, and it packs up to half the size of a Guardian jacket. It's extremely lightweight. It clips onto your bike or clips onto your running vest. I mean, that's one we're getting a lot of people using for running as sort of a wind jacket because it's so small in how it packs together. The other thing is that a lot of these garments have these coatings on them, and the coatings stop that air permeability from going through. Primarily because the U.S. tariffs. Not tariffs, but duty before tariffs. On a waterproof garment, you used to get a 7% duty into the United States, and a waterproof or a non-waterproof garment was a 27% duty. So a lot of companies would put these coatings on the fabrics and they would reduce the breathability and the air permeability because they get the duty savings of 20%. And so, but when you open up these textiles and allow for the air movement from a functionality perspective, when you first put them on and you go for a run, you'll be like, wow, the wind's just going right through it. This is killing me. I'm actually freezing. And then after a very short period of time, this internal pressure system builds up, which as a runner, you guys know what that's all about. And all of a sudden it starts getting warmer. And that warm air on the inside, or the warm heat on the inside, that's what's pushing this water vapor out and keeping you more comfortable. If it gets trapped in there and you stop, you get cold, right? That is a fact. And so if you can keep yourself less damp and push that water vapor out, that's where the gains are going to be made. So whatever layers you choose as a runner, as an athlete, as a whatever temperature or whatever speed you're moving and sweating, the less moisture we can have on the inside of the system with a shell of some kind, whether it's a wind shell or a waterproof shell on the outside, that's going to work the best from keeping you comfortable longer. And also, when you do stop, say you hurt your ankle or you stop for a snack or whatever, and you're not moving, you can stay more comfortable while not being aerobic. Because ultimately, when your engine stops moving, that's when you cool down really, really fast.
So I would definitely emphasize, I think the Northwoods jacket has always been underlined as a great versatile wind shell with a bit of air permeability to it. And it packs into the stash system. So I think that's fantastic for runners in particular. A couple other pieces that might be interesting that will be part of our Explore collection or be denoted with that in time. We make a pant that was designed specifically for cycling. It wasn't designed for multisport, but we get more feedback on that product being used for other things than anything else. And that's called our Glide Path pant. And we get messages of people every day going, I use this for running. I use it for climbing. I use it for trail running. I use it for drywalling. I wear it to the office some days. It's not a perfect fit for everything, but it's a great generalist application. And then some of our base layers where they're not ultra specific to fit. So if you're into merino, we make some merino polyester layers. Like I'm wearing one now. That's called our Desperado program. Those again were built originally for cycling, but get used for everything and kind of have the articulation fit close to body and give your shoulders freedom of movement, etc. So there's other products within our line that are noted as bike styles today that meet those needs, and some of the ones that have been validated and that fit the bill will roll into multi-sport, and other things we're designing specifically into that. And the weird way we end up in that situation, if this sounds disingenuous, is like we have products in our line that we don't call waterproof that other companies would call waterproof, but we're not comfortable doing that. And that's the same thing here. We're saying we're being really tough judges on ourselves, saying, well, I'm not going to tell you guys this Desperado shirt was designed for multi-sport. It was designed for riding. But every other brand in the world would just call this a multi-sport shirt and wouldn't even think twice about it. We're being pretty hard on ourselves, if you know what I mean.
Which, I mean, has to be the case, because you have this certain line, especially with certain claims, right? Of like, we know these products, we believe in these products, and so there has to be a high bar for you guys to validate those products. And so I appreciate that. Someone that comes to mind is like Norda, another familiar Canadian company in the running world, of like has that same ideal of like, if it's not working to our standard, what's the point? And so I just appreciate that from a gear perspective. And I think it's entering the risk of actually going 3 hours. I'm just going to say thank you guys. I think we could talk a lot more on a lot of different things. We'll just have to grab a drink and do that otherwise. But thank you guys for your time. Thank you guys for explaining so much more than just 7 mesh. And I did want to end on, when is that more multi-sport line going to launch? Is this going to be a February or a March launch?
I think you'll find it around, I think it's March 15th plus or minus, with the exact date to be confirmed.
Perfect. And many of us in the north will still be in winter, so we can start using those layers as appropriately needed. Thank you again, Ian and TJ. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Taylor. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us here, and appreciate everybody's time. If anybody has questions, we're always open to a chat. You can tell we like what we do, and we have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, fairly obvious. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got my laces tied. My trusty podcast by my side. If you want to